Hi guys, today we will talk about hypothalamus. In hypothalamus, we will talk about nuclei of hypothalamus, afferent and efferent connections, and functions of hypothalamus and applied aspects of hypothalamus. So coming to the hypothalamus, it is the part of diencephalon. So thalamus, hypothalamus, epithalamus, these are all parts of diencephalon and is located along the wall and floor of the third ventricle. And it extends anteriorly from optic chiasma to mammillary body. In between this optic chiasma and the mammillary body, we'll have the nuclei of hypothalamus. So this is the optic chiasma and this is the mammillary body. In between these two, we have the nuclei. Based on their anatomical location, we have three groups: anterior, middle, and posterior. As the name itself says, anterior nucleus is one component, anterior nucleus, and related with this optic chiasma. So suprachiasmatic nucleus, supraoptic nucleus, preoptic nucleus, paraventricular nucleus. So these are the anterior group of nucleus. Now we'll go to the posterior group. The name itself says posterior. So posterior nucleus, and already we know the posterior extent, that is mammillary body. So that's the posterior group. And the middle group, we have dorsomedial nucleus. So dorso means another ventromedial is there, and lateral and tuberal. These are the four nuclei that makes the middle group. Again, we'll mention them. So anterior in relation with the chiasma optic. So suprachiasmatic nucleus and preoptic, supraoptic, anterior in anterior, and paraventricular nucleus. These are the nuclei in the anterior group. Coming to the middle, dorsomedial, ventromedial, and lateral, arcuate or tuberal nucleus. And the posterior group are posterior nucleus and mammillary body. These are the nuclei present in the hypothalamus. Coming to the connections, before that, we should know what hypothalamus will do. Hypothalamus is a head ganglion of autonomic nervous system. So it controls autonomic nervous system. So autonomic nervous system, where those centers are there, it can connect to that. And it is getting the information from the limbic system as a part of emotions and memory, autonomic responses to emotions. Okay. It is also having a circadian rhythm. So biological clock. So it is having connection with the retina, retinohypothalamic fibers. And it has reciprocal connections with reticular formation. So we'll see that. So limbic cortex, hippocampus, amygdala, all the parts of limbic system are giving information to the hypothalamus. Hippocampus is connected with fornix and limbic cortex is connected with stria terminalis. And similarly, it is also giving the information, getting the information from frontal cortex and also efferent to frontal cortex. So afferent and efferent to frontal cortex, and from globus pallidus, basal ganglia. And remember, thalamus, it is having reciprocal innervation, both afferent and efferent. So thalamus and anterior nucleus of thalamus, that is the Pepys circuit, and dorsomedial nucleus of thalamus, which is concerned with reticular activating system also. So hypothalamus is also connected to reticular formation, and hypothalamus is connected to midbrain by mammillotegmental tract. And we already know that hypothalamus secretes the posterior pituitary hormone. So the connection is hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract. Okay, we'll simplify again. Now one is limbic system, that is giving afferent to hypothalamus. One. Next, so limbic system, we have limbic cortex, hippocampus, amygdala. Then another one is, it is having connection with the cortex. So frontal cortex. And similarly, efferent to frontal cortex. Then reciprocal relation with thalamus. So it is connected to thalamus and also efferent to thalamus. And afferent from reticular formation and efferent to reticular formation. Afferent from globus pallidus and afferent from retina. Efferent to posterior pituitary and efferent to midbrain. So these are the afferents and efferents of the hypothalamus. Coming to the functions of hypothalamus, as we already mentioned, it is connected to posterior pituitary. So it is secreting posterior pituitary hormones. What are those posterior pituitary hormones? Oxytocin and ADH, antidiuretic hormone, and oxytocin. So two nuclei, supraoptic nuclei and paraventricular nuclei. Usually supraoptic nuclei secretes more of ADH and paraventricular will secrete more of oxytocin. And that is by axoplasmic flow. So hypothalamic hypophyseal axons will be there, tracts. They will secrete these contents through axoplasmic flow into the posterior pituitary. Now, control of anterior pituitary, how it is done? Usually, hypothalamus will secrete releasing hormones like GnRH, thyrotropin releasing hormone into the bloodstream, that are called as hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal blood vessels. So, like these releasing GnRH, CRH, that is corticotropin releasing hormone, thyrotropin releasing hormone, growth hormone releasing hormone, all these will be secreted by the anterior pituitary and they are released by the portal blood vessels into the anterior pituitary. Now based on the stimulation, anterior pituitary will secrete the necessary hormones. And control of adrenal medulla. If you see, hypothalamus is also having autonomic function. Anterior hypothalamus is concerned with parasympathetic and posterior hypothalamus is concerned with sympathetic. So, dorsomedial and posterior hypothalamic nuclei are excited by emotional stimuli. So, posterior hypothalamus means sympathetic nervous system. So, sympathetic activation occurs that stimulates the adrenal medulla to release catecholamines. This is how adrenal medulla is secreted. Even it controls adrenal cortex by secreting cortico-releasing hormone, which causes ACTH from anterior pituitary that acts on the adrenal gland. Okay. Regulation of autonomic nervous system. We already mentioned anterior nuclei is parasympathetic, posterior is sympathetic. Remember this. Anterior parasympathetic, posterior sympathetic. So hypothalamus is also called as head ganglion of autonomic nervous system. It's like a brain of autonomic nervous system. And sympathetic is by posterior and lateral. So posterior and lateral nuclei. And parasympathetic is by anterior, that is anterior group of nuclei. So now you tell, if sympathetic is stimulated, heart rate and BP rises. Parasympathetic is stimulated, heart rate and BP is reduced. So anterior, parasympathetic, decrease in heart rate and BP. So posterior and lateral nuclei will increase heart rate and BP because increased sympathetic activity. Preoptic and anterior nuclei increases parasympathetic activity and decreases the heart rate and BP. Regulation of body temperature. If you see, sympathetic is like heat generation, sympathetic nervous system. So, which nuclei? This posterior nuclei and lateral nuclei which are concerned with sympathetic. So, posterior nuclei are heat gain centers which are sympathetic. And the preoptic nuclei of anterior hypothalamus is heat loss center. So, anterior part is heat loss and posterior part is heat gain. Regulation of hunger and food intake. So, usually we will be having two centers. One is feeding center, which is the lateral hypothalamus and is always active. Feeding center is always active. It should be inhibited to stop feeding. Satiety center is not always active. Whenever the blood glucose is full, satiety center will be on and feeding center is inhibited. So stimulation of feeding center causes hyperphagia, that means overeating, and destruction causes anorexia, loss of appetite. And coming to the satiety center, which is ventromedial nucleus. So lateral is feeding and ventromedial is satiety. And destruction of this causes hyperphagia, which is a symptom of hypothalamic obesity. These centers are regulated by following mechanisms: 1. Glucostatic, 2. Lipostatic, 3. Peptide, 4. Hormonal, 5. Thermostatic. So in these ways, these feeding and satiety centers are regulated. So glucostatic, simple. You took the food, blood glucose is elevated, so glucostats are activated, and these glucostats will cause stimulation of satiety center that inhibits the feeding center. So food intake is stopped, and after some time the blood glucose is lowered. So whenever the blood glucose is lowered, no more stimulation of satiety center, so stimulation of feeding center, that increases the appetite. This is the cycle. And lipostatic mechanism, where leptin is the main one. So leptin from adipocytes usually inhibits the feeding center. Leptin also indirectly acts through neuropeptide Y by inhibiting it, which is an appetite stimulator. So neuropeptide Y is an appetite stimulator. It inhibits that. And also it directly inhibits the feeding center. And leptin also stimulates the secretion of pro-opiomelanocortin, POMC, which inhibits the appetite. So finally, leptin is an appetite inhibitor. And also, it increases the sympathetic activity, which causes the more utilization of energy, that is energy expenditure. Other than this, leptin is also having actions of regulation of onset of puberty, stimulates the thyroid function, controls glucocorticoid secretion, and activity of uncoupling protein. Uncoupling protein is the one which uncouples the oxidation and phosphorylation. So heat is generated and energy is dissipated. So these all last three are together for energy expenditure. So onset of puberty, sympathetic activity, glucocorticoid activity, thyroid function, and uncoupling protein. So all this, it will cause energy expenditure. Coming to the peptide mechanism. Peptide mechanism are nothing but peptide hormones or peptide substances which increases the food intake. Ghrelin from stomach, neuropeptide Y from orchate nucleus are the appetite stimulators, and the peptides which inhibits, we already know one peptide, leptin, and peptide YY. Remember, neuropeptide Y is a stimulant, peptide YY is an inhibitor. And coming to the hormonal mechanism, the hormones which inhibit the food intake are estrogen, oxytocin, somatostatin, glucagon, pancreatic polypeptide, and cholecystokinin. We call all these as gut peptides. All these somatostatin, glucagon, pancreatic polypeptide, cholecystokinin, these are called as gut peptides, which are all inhibitory on feeding center and which increase food intake. They are orexins and melanocyte stimulating hormone. These are the one which increases the food intake. And coming to the thermostatic mechanism, usually inversely proportional to the body temperature. Like in fever, the food intake is reduced because of the stimulation of preoptic thermoreceptor activation, which inhibits the feeding. So inversely proportional to the temperature. And regulation of water balance. So how this water balance will be regulated? There are two mechanisms. One is ADH, another one is thirst mechanism. So before going to that, there are some structures called as organum vasculosum of lamina terminalis, subfornis organ, area postrema, which lies outside the blood-brain barrier, so they can detect smallest changes in the osmolarity. Based on that, either ADH secretion or thirst mechanism is on. So antidiuretic. Usually we said that it is supraoptic nucleus which is secreting the antidiuretic hormone. So whenever the ECF volume is decreased, relatively osmolarity is increased, which causes supraoptic nucleus activation, which secretes ADH, and that causes facultative absorption of water from DCT and CT. Thirst mechanism is by lateral nucleus of hypothalamus. So whenever there is ECF volume is decreased, similarly relative increase in osmolarity. Whenever osmolarity is increased, osmoreceptors gets activated. Whenever the osmoreceptors are activated, lateral nuclei of hypothalamus, which is the thirst center, gets activated, and feeling of thirst, water intake, and increase of volume of ECF occurs, and decreased osmolarity occurs. This is how thirst mechanism. Sleep wakeful cycles. So mammillary body is the wakefulness center, and anterior hypothalamus is sleep. We can say that parasympathetic is a rest one, and also for sleep. Okay. Behavior and emotional changes. So for any behavior or emotional pattern, there are two centers, reward and punishment center. If the reward center is stimulated, we will try to do that activity multiple times as we get the pleasure. So reward center stimulation will give you pleasure and you will repeat that activity. Similarly, punishment center activation will give you aversion and you will stop doing that activity. So reward center is ventromedial nucleus of hypothalamus, and punishment center is posterior and lateral nuclei of hypothalamus. Stimulation of these will cause aversion to an activity. And coming to the regulation of sexual function, usually the onset of puberty and these menstrual cycles are all under the control of GnRH. And also arcuate and posterior hypothalamic nuclei will maintain the sexual cycles. Role in response to smell. So the posterior hypothalamus and with hippocampus and brainstem nuclei, all these are concerned with response to smell. What responses will occur with smell? Either it may be feeding, fear, excitement, or pleasure. These responses to smell will occur with the posterior hypothalamus. Circadian rhythm. What is circadian rhythm? That is diurnal rhythm. In Latin, circadian means around the day. So the brain should know there should be a biological clock. What is happening with the day and night? There should be a biological clock, and that is present in the suprachiasmatic nucleus with the help of retinohypothalamic fibers, because retina will be looking at the light and that information is carried to the hypothalamus. So day is light, night is dark. Based on this, the suprachiasmatic nucleus will set biological clock, and that is there for sleep, hormonal secretion, thirst, hunger, and appetite. So that's the circadian rhythm. These are the functions of hypothalamus. To make them clearly, so whatever that is required for life, so food, so we can say that food intake, then water, we can say that water balance, then sleep, so sleep wakefulness, circadian rhythm, biological clock, and posterior pituitary regulation, anterior pituitary regulation, and adrenal medullary regulation, BP heart rate regulation, and emotional and behavioral pattern. All these are the functions of hypothalamus. Coming to the applied physiology, global hypothalamic syndrome is the one when there is lesion of major part of hypothalamus, maybe due to malignancy, or which may be lymphoma. So what happens? Usually the person won't survive because of loss of homeostatic mechanisms and also loss of temperature regulation. So patient dies. And partial, based on which nuclei is involved. So diabetes insipidus, where there is less secretion of ADH, Syndrome of inappropriate ADH secretion, where ADH secretion is more. Precocious puberty, early onset of puberty. Alteration in the body weight. Anorexia nervosa and bulimia are the disorders where anorexia will be loss of appetite, bulimia will be overeating. And hyperthermia due to the loss of homeostatic mechanism of thermal regulation, lesion in anterior part of hypothalamus. Narcolepsy, which is sudden uncontrolled sleep, and cataplexy, uncontrolled outburst of emotion plus narcolepsy. That is cataplexy. Thank you for your patient listening. Bye.